Hello all, in this video I am going to explain application using Terraform. So first of all I am going to explain my instance. So the name of this resource is anu-inst. The name of this resource is anu-inst, and next there is a AMI ID that I put from my instance, and this is associated with other instance operating system, and this is also vary from operating system to operating system. And for example, if you are using window, the AMI ID is different for window, and for Amazon it's different. So I'm using Ubuntu operating system, so this is my AMI ID. Now so the type of my instance is t2.micro. That I inst type is so the type of my instance is t2.micro. Now in tag, the name I mentioned this name instance. So in tag there is a name instance. Terra is the name of my instance, so that we can identify our instance with the help of this name. Now next there is a user data. In user data, after launching my instance, these commands will run in my instance. So first update command will update my all packages, and after that Ruby will install, and this all script will run after launching my instance. Now there is my virtual private cloud. This line launching the resource AWS VPC, and the name of my resource is Terraform VPC. And in the next line there is a CIDR block, and the CIDR block is associated with the VPC. And the CIDR block is associated with the VPC is 10.0.0.0/16, and the instance tendency is default. When you create a VPC by default, and its tenancy attribute is set to default, in such a VPC you can launch instance with a tenancy value of dedicated, so that they run as single tenancy instance. Otherwise they run as a shared tenancy instance by default. Now next there is a tag. In tag I put a name called Terraform VPC. So with the help of this you can identify your VPC with the name Terraform VPC. Now next there is a subnets that I have created. I have created a public subnet and a private subnet. In public subnet, the resource that AWS subnet, and the name of the resource is Terra Public. Now the VPC ID that I associate with my public subnet is AWS VPC Terraform.id, and CIDR block that we associate with this is 10.0.10/24. Now the availability zone is US East 1A. Now the name that I given in tag is, and the tag name is Terra Public Subnet. With the help of this we can identify our public subnet. Now next I created private subnet. In this resource AWS subnet, the name of this private subnet is Terra Private. Now the VPC ID that we associated with the AWS VPC, in this VPC associated with private subnet, and the CIDR block that we associate with this is 10.0.2.0/24, and this availability zone is different from another, because two availability zone we may provide. So in this I provide US East 1B. Now next tag name I given Terra Private Subnet. With the help of this we can identify our private subnet. So in both private and public availability zone is different. Now the security group that I have created, so the resource name is AWS security group, the resource is AWS security group, and the name of this resource is public. Next there is a so this is my ingress. So now the name is Terra Public Security Group. Description public internet access that I mentioned. Now next VPC ID AWS VPC Terraform VPC.id. It is this VPC associated with my security group. Now in tag name it is identified with Terra security group. Now there is a ingress and the egress rule. In ingress rule, add an inbound rule to a security group. An inbound rule permits instance to receive traffic from the specified CIDR, in which I allow all traffic, and it allow instance to receive traffic from the specified CIDR, and CIDR address range or from the instance associated with the specified security group. And so this is my ingress. Now this the request is comes from 65535 and the protocol TCP and CIDR block 0.0. It allows all traffic and it is associated with my security and the security group ID that I have mentioned. Now next there is a egress rule. Egress add the specified egress rule to security group for use with the VPC. An outbound rule permits instance to send traffic to the specified destination. So again, the type is egress from port 0 to port 0 and CIDR block is 0.0.0/0 and security group that I have mentioned, security group ID AWS security group public.id. So that's all about in my security group. So next there is my internet gateway. So the resource is AWS internet gateway. The name of this resource that I mentioned is Terra internet gateway, and the VPC that I associate with my and the internet gateway that I associate with my VPC is AWS VPC terraform VPC.id, and the tag I given the name is Terra internet gateway, and internet gateway allows my instance to connect with internet. So in routetable, so here I created routetable, public routetable and private. So in public, the resource is AWS routetable and the name of resource is Terra public, and the VPC that I have associated with routetable is AWS VPC. That is my VPC that I have created earlier, and the block is 0.0.0/0. It allows all traffic. Now the gateway that I have associated with my routetable. So here this is my gateway. Now the tag name is public routetable, so it identify with this name. Now next there is a private routetable. So here this is my resource AWS routetable. The name of this resource is Terra private. Now the VPC ID that I have associated, this is my VPC. Now route CIDR block, also it allows all traffic. Now the gateway that I have connected, the name private routetable. With the help of this we can identify with the help of this we can identify our private routetable. Here I attached my routetable with subnet. So the resource is AWS routetable and association, the name of this resource is for public. So I connected my routetable with subnet. So my that's why I mentioned here the subnet ID. This is my subnet ID and AWS subnet.terrapublic.id and the routetable ID. AWS routetable.terrapublic.id. This is my routetable. So here I associate my routetable with subnet. Once my routetable is created, then we should associate my routetable with subnet. Now again for private, it associate my subnet with routetable. So here I this resource is created load balancer. So the resource name is test, name is load balancer, internal false. Now the type of my load balancer is application load balancer. I used application load balancer for my load balancer. Now the security group that we associate with load balancer is AWS security group.public.id, and the subnet that I associated with this, I created 2 subnets. So that's why I mentioned here is 2 subnets, like one private and one public. You have to mention all your subnets here. So I mentioned. Now next there is enable deletion protection. So I mentioned here false. Now name is Terra of my load balancer name. So Terra is my load balancer name. So we want to subnet access through load balancer. Now there is a subnet 1 and subnet 2 is connected with the load balancer. We want this subnet access through load balancer. That's why I associate. Now the target group is very important for load balancer. Every request that comes to load balancer through target and listener group. So in target group the resource and the name target group terraform. Now the name and the port I allowed is 80, protocol is HTTP, and now VPC that I have associated here. Now next there is a listener. I attached we created a resource here, target group, and this resource has name is target group. Now next there is a listener, the resource AWS load balancer listener. So I allowed for listener I allotted 80 port. Now default action type forward. Now the port that is open for the target group is 80 and the protocol that will be associated is HTTP. So in listener, the resource AWS load balance listener, the name of the resource is listener group. Now the load balancer ARN and the port is 80. Before you start using application load balancer, you must add one or more listener. I add one listener. A listener is a process that check for connection request. So here the my port of my listener is 80 and default action type forward. So here I use forward action, default action type forward, so that the route request, so that you can use forward action to route request to one or more target group. So here I associate target group with my listener.